Hello! Welcome to our monthly recap of our Album a Day Challenge for the month of April. I'm Anvil, and this is my co-host,
Izzy. And today we're going to be going over each album that we've listened to in April. What we're trying to do is listen to one new album a day for the year of 2021. And currently the challenge is listening to one album from every year from 1957 to 2021.
We draw a year out of a hat
box.
And a box. Yes, we draw a year out of a box, and then we
have to listen to one.
Yeah.
Yep. So let's go on to week one.
All right, on day one, we listened to "Finding It Hard to Smile" by Lovely the Band.
This one was honestly a surprise because we thought that they were kind of a one-hit wonder. They did the song "Broken." I like that you're broken, broken like me. You probably heard it on the radio once or twice. But when we were going through the top songs to post them on
DJ.Anvil.
We had to listen to pretty much every...
Instagram.
We pretty much had to listen to each song over again to try and figure out what our top ones would be.
Yeah, I'm currently still listening to that album.
Really?
In my car, yeah. Huh. I like it. It's poppy, but the lyrics are...
surprisingly deep?
Yeah.
Kind of like 21 Pilots, if you like them. I'd say that they're
good. But with a lot more bounce.
Yeah.
So on day two, we moved on to Diamonds and Studs by Morningwood.
We've listened to Chantal Clarette before and really liked it, so it wasn't really that as much of a shock that, it was very playful, very bouncy again.
Yeah, she's got her own style, unique style. I like it. It's probably a good one for somebody to listen to if you've never heard it. Day three, we moved on to Beautiful Freak by Eels.
I actually really liked this one, even though I forgot about it. That sounds like an insult. It's not. I'm just forgetful. Yeah, that one had some really dark songs.
Yeah, it did.
Then we did Rubber Soul by the Beatles. Again, another one that I forgot that we had done. I don't know why, but I keep thinking we haven't done the Beatles yet.
It's a classic album, but, it's if you like classic rock, then you'll like it. If you don't like classic rock, then you won't.
Yeah, that's
very much in that vein. It doesn't bring anything that really translates into the modern day, I don't think.
Now for another one that you're either gonna love or hate is "Kimono My Soul" by Sparks, not
Kimono
the Sparks.
My House.
Kimono My House?
Yeah.
Oh, I read that one with the other one.
By the Sparks. The Sparks
Weird.
are a very strange band. I listened to them in the 80s, but I really honestly thought they only had one album. I didn't think they had albums stretching back into the 70s. Some people say words can't describe something, and it's just hyperbole. And in this case, it's true. I don't even know how to begin to describe it. It's a fever dream.
Yeah.
Well, what did I say? Watching Nightmare Before Christmas while having a fever dream?
I think so.
Yeah, it's very Tim Burton-y.
Honestly, even if you don't listen to it, check out their Wikipedia page. Do some research into them. They are just weird. They live such an odd life.
Yeah, it's a very odd band. And we followed it up with another kind of odd album, The Clones of Dr. Funkenstein by Parliament.
It's funk. If you like funk, you're going to like it. If you don't, you're not.
Yeah,
a lot of albums this month.
Yeah, it was kind of like funk meets a comic book in a way.
Yeah.
There wasn't very much social protest going on in there. It was just funk, really. And then we rounded out the week with one of my faves, Diesel and Dust by Midnight Oil. They're an Australian political band, alt-rock. The lead singer actually went into politics and served as basically a senator.
He actually went through with it. Wow.
Yeah, saying a lot about the Aboriginal people and their struggles.
That was, again, another surprisingly good album with a lot of more introspective lyrics on different issues.
It was a surprise to you. I actually saw them live on the Diesel and Dust tour. I still have the shirt from that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and with that, we move on to week two. Weeko number 20. So we started that off with what?
What's Going On? I thought you were going into that.
I was trying to set you up there. What's Going On by Marvin Gaye. Arguably one of the best albums of all time.
A lot of places will put it at the best album of all time, and you can see it. It's a really easy listening one that all the songs flow into one another, but if you take the time to listen to the lyrics, he's talking about issues that still apply now, but not in a so in-your-face way that it's annoying or anything.
Yeah, it was really one of the groundbreaking albums in the world of politics being in music. You know, it really set the tone for a lot of people that came after him. The next day we went to
Take This to Your Grave by Fall Out Boy.
I, for one, like the album cover.
It's a cool album cover. Yeah.
It really is a cool album cover.
Sounds really rude. It's Fall Out Boy. If you've listened to any more than their hits, it just sounds like older Fall Out Boy without. I don't know how that makes so much sense, but it does.
Oh, that's a hell of a
Their lyrics don't
review.
tend to mean much, but they've got good instrumentals and it's catchy, so that's kind of the charm of them. Then we did Rio by Duran Duran.
Classic 80s band. I mean, not a band that recorded in the 80s music. Really, no one did it better back then than Duran Duran.
Yeah.
Their videos were legendary and worth checking out. I mean, it's a bygone era, but, some bands are out there trying to recreate that sound even today.
Yeah. Then we did Exodus by Bob Marley and the Wailers.
Really schizophrenic list this week. Fall Out Boy, Duran Duran, Bob Marley. And the Bob Marley
even worse.
I mean, you really don't even have to really say anything about it. Everybody should know what Exodus. It's one of those top 100 albums of all times.
And even if you don't know that album, if you know Bob Marley, you know it basically.
Yeah, it's reggae.
Then we had one that was a little bit disappointing, sadly, the Marshall Mathers LP by Eminem. It wasn't bad, and there were definitely some really good songs, but like we mentioned on DJ.Anvil on Instagram, a lot of it was kind of shock factor, and nowadays those things that used to be shocking weren't really anymore. You've already heard them 1,000 times, so hearing him say some of the lyrics is just kind of like, oh, okay, we get it.
Try hard.
But yeah, it does come across as that now.
For me, he was just really, he'd say ugly things, and then he would just go, oh, hey, it's just me, and he would apologize, and I don't know, I love Eminem, but listening to that album, I really felt that he was quite lame. It really came across as lame.
I'm sure at the time it was better.
At the time it was more shocking, but
nowadays,
shock for the sake of shock. I don't know, I didn't get very many points here.
Then we did Eyes Open by Snow Patrol. Which was almost not a Snow Patrol. I, for some reason, always get them confused with Toad the Wet Sprocket. I don't know why.
Both because they're good bands that I listen to.
That's why. But Eyes Open, really good album.
Yeah.
I very much like it. That should be a hint to the awards, but yeah. Definitely listen to it.
Yeah,
if you're not going to listen to Snow Patrol.
It features the song Chasing Cars. Which most people know that song.
If you don't know it by the name, just listen to it. You'll be singing along again.
Yeah, and then the rest of the album is almost as solid. I mean, it's one of those albums where it's hard for any song to eclipse something as good as Chasing Cars. But it's a good album. I still listen to it to this day. So
yeah, that's saying something. And then we had Eyes Open, and then we had Face Value
by Phil Collins, and that was like we were saying Snow Patrol had Chasing Cars, but it was kind of in the middle of the album. Phil Collins starts with In the Air Tonight, and
it makes the entire album then go downhill because you just peaked at a song that you probably love.
Well, yeah, it's one of the greatest songs ever written, but then it's kind of hard to follow that up.
Yeah, but if you save the hit for the middle, you're like anticipating it. You want to keep listening.
Yep.
But yeah, the pacing of that album made it a little bit more disappointing than it could have been if it had just been reworked a little, possibly.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of I don't think it held up as much as a full album listening to the entire thing than some other albums have.
In the Air Tonight will probably always be an amazing song.
Oh, yeah. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
You know what else is amazing?
What?
Week 3. Okay, so week 3 kicked off with Surrealistic Pillow by Jefferson Airplane.
The 3 F's I wrote, that's not correct. But
yeah, behind the scenes kind of stuff. It features the song White Rabbit
really
and also Want Somebody to Love. When the Truth Is Found. It's got 2 really popular songs and then some other songs that are definitely worth listening to. Really
good. I surprisingly really loved that album, honestly. I could see myself listening to that again depending on like what mood I was in,
It was just enough surrealistic blended with enough lyrics Unlike some
Yeah.
bands that we've listened to where it's too much surreal music or psychedelic music. Like they dialed the psychedelic back just enough.
It was a
to allow
tasteful
the-
amount.
Yes, exactly. It was like saffron or truffles.
Yeah.
You only want to use a little bit. A pinch will go a long way.
And then we did Moondance by Van Morrison.
Yeah, we were really hitting the old farts right there. Moondance is a classic album. I love it. You liked it, but I don't think it's one that you like stuck on your playlist immediately.
No.
Not like some of these other ones.
I could see why it was an important album, and I definitely couldn't say that it was a bad album, but it was, again, kind of one a little bit forgettable because now there's so many people that have tried to copy that vibe.
Yeah.
So it doesn't sound as unique anymore.
Yeah, it's kind of just basic classic rock to some degree.
Then we did 13 by Blur.
This is, I think, the one we disagreed with the most.
Yes.
I didn't really...
He despised it seemed.
Yeah.
But then me and off-camera Amy were like, that was good, Deepa. We liked it. I think for you, it was kind of like too psychedelic, kind of like the Jefferson Airplane kind of thing. Like it was too much of that.
Yeah.
That the lyrics were kind of hidden to you.
Yeah, they were a little muddled. And,
Yeah.
And I like lyrics. I mean, I think if you print up lyrics and read it as poetry,
It should sound correct still.
No, it should be almost as good as the song.
Yeah.
If the music covers it all up, then you can't judge it that way.
Yeah. And then we did Isn't Anything by My Bloody Valentine.
I know we listened to it, but I don't remember it at all.
It was very depressing. It was very depressing.
Yeah, and I think he kind of ran into the same problem as Blur, where it was a little bit hard to sort
to
out
the
what they were
lyrics.
talking about, but you just knew it was about pain and misery.
Just the sound of it, yeah.
Yeah. Then we did.
Rum, Sodomy, and the Lash by the Pogues.
Wow, she doesn't say bad words ever, so I'm surprised she actually said the word sodomy. And by the Pogues,
It's a tasteful way of saying it.
it is, I guess. It's a taste. The Pogues are an Irish band. They blend traditional Irish music with sort of a punk rock attitude, sort of punk rock lyrics. They have a song on there called "Dirty Old Town," which is a song that was written by a former folk singer, or I don't know, a folk singer from a different generation. And it just, it's hard. I can't even, words. But it is such a good love song. And they have several songs like that are just really just so spot on with their lyrics.
They have such interesting lyrics, too. If you read them, you'd be like, I didn't know they just said that very specific thing.
Yeah, they were really good at that, like taking traditional songs that really you could relate to, finding older covers to do, and original music. But they're a fun band, and it's a great introduction to the Irish sound.
Yeah. Then we did Sunshine Superman by Donovan, and I think the way I summed it up, besides for saying I really liked it,
I really liked it.
was that it sounded older. Like, you could clearly tell that it was older, but it could have been done now, like, for example, like an I Don't Know How kind of band, and you wouldn't really be surprised. Like, if you had told me that was a recreation type band that came out 2 years ago, I wouldn't really be surprised, because just the overall quality of it didn't sound dated compared to some bands where you're like, that sounds old, and it's definitely old.
Yeah, because there was some restraint shown again in the psychedelic type of element that Donovan brought in. It was a very calm album, very solid all the way through. There weren't highs and lows in it, like some albums that we've reviewed where something, you're just going up and down like a pendulum.
Yeah.
Although pendulums don't go up and down.
They go left and
They
right.
go left and right.
Yeah.
But in this case, the pendulum's going up and down.
That's a very
like
weird
a
pendulum.
yo-yo.
Oh, there you go.
Yo-yo. And then we ended the week with Etta James and her album, At Last. Which was just an interesting... It's sometimes it's hard to judge older music based on lyrics because they weren't looking for that back then. But her voice was so good and her story is so tragic. Like, I don't really know why there isn't an Etta James movie. I'm sure there must be. I just have never come across it.
Yeah, because even though you could say nowadays it might get a lower grade, if you're just gonna go by voice and the passion behind it, easily a 10. There's no way you can really argue that one.
Oh yeah, back in the day, it would have easily been a 10.
Yeah,
because the song choice that she went through, but her story, wow, it's almost as sad as the story of week 4.
Alrighty, we're gonna look at week 4 to see if it really was.
If it really was a sad week,
because we don't look in advance. We have it blocked.
It had its moments.
It had its moments.
It had some weird moments. Bear with us, because there's stories to be told on this one. So we started it off with Minutes to Midnight by Linkin Park. I was very familiar with Linkin Park from their singles. I listened to their albums off and on, but I, for one, was blown away by some of their deeper cuts.
Yes, I was too. That really was a good album. Another one that I'm listening to after, because since we're listening to so much music, it's kind of hard to listen to music on your own time when you're not doing something, like actually just listening.
Yeah.
So listening to it after is a real compliment in this.
Yeah, I am too. I even got the live version. It's the first 10 we've given out.
Yeah, and one thing that they did really well was talk about political things, but then not make it so specific that you clearly know what that is. And with that same idea in mind, you could then apply it to a particular person in your life or something completely not political, which is very interesting and important, because obviously if you're listening to music, you don't want to hear a bash on one particular person or something.
Yeah, it felt like they were talking more about politics in general, problems in general. They didn't make it too specific. Great rock songs can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. So then we move on to one of the weirdest surprises.
You tell the story of this one.
So Julie London played Nurse Dixie McCall on the television show Emergency. I grew up idolizing Emergency. It was about paramedics in Los Angeles in the hospital that they would take the patients to. And I never knew that Julie London had 30 albums.
Yeah.
She's a lounge singer. They call her a torch singer. But if you're looking for kind of that loungy, sexy vibe, Julie London
has a lot.
Yeah.
It's that very soft 50s. If you
really
like
reminded
that.
me of Marilyn Monroe's singing too.
Yeah.
Which, but that one really was just kind of like, what? Like, Julie London, 30 albums. Like, what? And then she went and did Emergency. It was very weird. And her husband, who helped write some of the songs, was on Emergency too. And
what album did we pick? You were just talking about her.
Huh? That was out. What was it? Oh, Make Love to Me by Julie London.
A lot of her albums seemed themed. Like, if you look at the title and you look at the songs, it was very funny. She really did have themed albums, and she had
Make Love to Me
so many of them.
Yeah, there were 30.
Yeah.
I know. I didn't even know she had one. So then we moved on to Inner Visions by Stevie Wonder, who is truly one of the musical geniuses. I would almost argue that if there was a Mount Rushmore of music, you'd have to put Stevie Wonder on there.
Yeah, you would.
He started out as a kid, and by the time he released Inner Visions, I think he was 23 years old, and he already released, like, I don't know. If you want to know the numbers, I put it at dj.anvil on Instagram.
But he was very mature, even at such a young age, because he'd been doing it his whole life. So even though it's like an album from when he was younger, it was already felt like a fully fleshed out, like someone who's been doing music for 50 years because he was such a prodigy.
Yeah, and it was a very politically charged album too. It was it wasn't what people see nowadays, which is, they see him playing his hits and it seems like, oh, it's all upbeat and everything. But he was really serious back in the day. He really was one of those ones like Marvin Gaye, who really started to break down walls.
Then we did OK Computer by Radiohead. As loved as it is, we didn't really like it because a lot of their lyrics are a bit fluff.
They're fluffy, but they're also short. Like, some of them would have great lyrics, but it would only be one or two lines of great lyrics, and all the rest of it was just repeating something over and over again. I've listened to a lot of Radiohead. I had friends that were really into Radiohead and basically forced me to listen to Radiohead, and I always thought they were overrated, and I was really interested to hear what Izzy thought about them, because they are supposedly one of those Mount Rushmores of alt music.
I can see the reasoning behind it because their sound and overall vibe is very taken from, like, there's a lot of inspiration taken from them, but I don't think they themselves were all that good. Like, they set the...
They were influential. They were influential, but not all that great.
And then someone took the materials and made it better. It's like, does the person who makes the paper, are they as good as the writer? Not really, because the writer was the one that took it into that.
Are they is it the person who makes the paint or Van Gogh?
Van Gogh.
Van Gogh.
Then we did Italian Love Songs by Dean Martin.
It's a Dino Martin.
This was like Julie London, where if you want beautiful love music to put on in the background and just sit and read a book to, you're gonna enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, it really was good. It was it really was one of those ones that you set that specific mood because it did not jump all over the place. It was one style of music and it was all the way through. And it was sort of one of my favorites because it just was so like, it was just so chill. It was like if you're into the lo-fi, I think you would really appreciate kind of just
the soft 50s, soft 60s.
It really reminded me of a 1950s movie soundtrack, you know, where it was never the highs and lows. It was just kind of bouncy. It was to
set the mood, not to make you feel out of the mood.
Yeah. So then we moved on to Let's Go by Avril Lavigne.
Let Go, yeah.
Let Go, excuse me. It
was a little bit disappointing because since it was so early in her career, I believe it was actually her debut, was it?
I think it was her debut.
She didn't have that much say in the instrumentals. When you look through the Wikipedia and whatnot, it said, like, she said herself or something that she didn't have as much of a role in it. So the lyrics were really good and really clever and sung well, but then the instrumentals just sounded like they said, okay, we're making a Disney movie and we need the emo girl. What's the soundtrack for it? Like,
yeah, and it was the Matrix was the name of the production team, and you could really feel, like I said on DJ.Anvil on Instagram, it was made by a committee, and it really sounded that way, and it was kind of disappointing because I was expecting this young girl with a punk rock attitude to really just, you know, punch it out. And instead, it really felt like they took two separate things, lyrics or vocals and instrumentals, and they just kind of like kept blending them together until they got what they thought was perfect. And it didn't feel organic. It didn't feel organic. And I hate using that word. I hate you saying something is or isn't organic, but that really describes it. It did not feel organic.
And then we finished the week off with Hot Fuss by The Killers. A really good album. I think he was a little bit burnt out of it because he's probably heard all the songs like hundreds of times, whether through own listening or through the radio. This is the one that had Somebody Told Me and Mr. Brightside. A lot of the more deeper cuts were also really, really strong.
Yeah. See, what surprises me as somebody who's much older, if you haven't figured that out, when I can go back and listen to Midnight Oil, or I could go back and listen to Marvin Gaye, Snow Patrol, Donovan, Linkin Park, and still enjoy it, it really means a lot to me because my entire life I have been moving forward in music. I do not stay stuck in the past. I can't listen to what used to be my favorite, The Doors, Zeppelin. There's a lot of bands out there, popular bands, that I no longer listen to. I don't listen to Motley Crue anymore. I can barely listen to Iron Maiden. And The Killers, just unfortunately for me, has fallen in that group where I've heard it so many times. And I think it really affected sort of my rating. But still I know it's a good album, but I just didn't enjoy it as much as I once did.
Just a personal bias.
Yeah, if I had scored it, I would have scored it much higher when it came out.
Now on to our short week 5.
All right, week 5 coming at you here.
2 days.
2 days here. And two very different days. First, we started with Rotation by Cute Is What We Aim For.
Which was very disappointing. I've listened to a lot of pop punk, the so-called emo music, not a genre, just the people who listen to it. But Rotation wasn't that good. It felt very copy and pasted from who was doing good at the time.
That sounded like something that was written on DJ.Anvil at Instagram.
Wow, I've been on the plugs today. But yeah, it really did feel like they were taking what was popular in that scene and then putting it into their own music. Very, lyrics you've heard before, lyrics you could guess, basically.
I'm desperate for new stuff, so I really wanted to listen to like this, so that I wouldn't feel so old. I'd be like, oh, I listened to a band who has a name that's 6 letters long, but I couldn't.
They're not that new, anyways.
They're not. What was that, like 2006 or
four?
I don't know. You should look it up on dj.info on Instagram. And then we ended the month with Darius Rucker and his album Charleston, South Carolina.
Alrighty, we're going to start the award ceremony, and this time we're going to be going in different order, because I've had complaints of doing the best album first.
Raise his hand.
So the first one is, what is the most genre specific? And what we mean by this is, what album would only specific people like? So, basically, what would the least amount of people like, but it's not bad, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because, for example, I thought the Dean Martin album was very genre specific, but it really would appeal to a lot more people than just old people who were alive in the 50s.
Yeah.
You know, or people who like crooners. You know,
yeah.
Like a lot of people can like that, but...
And I'm sure if you're here on YouTube, you probably like calm music like lo-fi, so you'd probably like that.
Yeah, Italian love songs is really lo-fi study music, and, you know...
Well, that wasn't the winner, but...
No, it wasn't, but we wanted to clarify that.
Yeah. The winner for this award was 13 by Blur.
Yes, because unless you're a miserable 13-year-old, you're not going to listen to this music. Or a miserable 16-year-old. No, that's not true, but it really was. You would really have to like...
If you put this on for Grandma, Grandma would call 911 for you.
Yeah, she'd call the poison hotline and just say, I don't know what my granddaughter took, but she must have taken something.
And now we're doing our individual favorites. Your favorite...
Well,
was this one.
It's 2 albums for each one. Well, I guess my favorite was Midnight Oil, Diesel, and Dust. Simply put, because I just remember those days so vividly and protesting against some of that stuff, and I still listen to it this day, and I don't even think it's lost one step.
My favorite was Eyes Open by Snow Patrol. This is the one that I've listened to
Yay!
at least 7 times fully through.
Woof.
And would you like to guess what Amy's was?
Amy's favorite band was... Do I go with the joke answer or the real answer?
Up to you.
Eminem.
I guess that was the joke answer.
That was a joke answer. Her answer was undoubtedly, without it, I promise you I get this right. Charleston, South Carolina, 1966.
No, but
what?
It was marked as best, even though she said she had a couple marked. She had 7 marked.
Oh, God. Off camera, Amy.
Her favorite was Moondance, Van Morrison.
And she's seen Van Morrison in concert.
Yeah, she also said the Beatles, Marvin Gaye, Phil Collins, Donovan, Dean Martin, and Darius Rucker.
Good God.
I know.
Seriously? She's like the direct opposite of me, man. She's like moving in reverse on her musical taste.
The next one was
Lord.
Most Surprising Album, which we gave to Darius Rucker, Charleston, South Carolina, 1966. We picked the last one. This was the last day of the month. We just wanted to do a country one because off camera Amy likes country, and we haven't really done a lot of it. So we just looked at top 10.
Oh, no, we have.
We have.
Yes, we have.
We looked up top 10, and she picked that one. Well, she picked another one first, but it was an hour long, and we're about to do that.
It was just like a good book, or like even like a good movie that you didn't really expect anything out of, and it just kind of touched your soul, and like you kind of looked at the album and you just said thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for putting my head back in the right perspective.
Then our next one was the best album for the masses, and we did Finding It Hard to Smile by Lovely the Band. Because it's already radio music, it sounds current, so a majority of the people would like it, or at least say that it was tolerable.
Yeah, there's a little bit for everybody in that, and it's really just...
And it's already proven that by one of its singles. So.
Yeah, yeah.
Then we had the most unique album, and this was Kimono My House, Sparks. No competition there. Yeah,
I'm still searching for words.
We spent like 40 minutes after, or like we took a break, and we were just talking about how weird it was.
There are 2 brothers, and one brother writes the lyrics and insists that the other brother sings the lyrics as written, even when that's impossible. He makes his brother singing keys that he has a struggles to reach. Like
he really said, "I wrote it like this. You are doing it like this."
Exactly, and it's just it's bizarre. It's just really bizarre music. I don't know if it adds up to anything. I just don't know. I mean, the album that I fell in love with was called "Angst in My Pants," and they had songs about Mickey Mouse. They had songs about their mustache. But yet it's not novelty music. It's done seriously.
It's genuine music that has a strange idea, but it works.
Yeah. Don't know how.
And then we did the worst album overall. And we picked Rotation by Cute is what we aimed for. And I think off camera Amy would have, because she put the question mark next to it, so I don't think she really knew, but she picked a worst one. Would you like to take a guess now?
The worst one was Eminem.
Yeah, it was. That really, didn't come as a surprise.
Yeah, I guess as you mature, you're not impressed by some guy talking about having sex with his mom. I mean, it's...
And when you've already heard it by people like MSI or just in pop culture, because like a lot of anime, at least horror anime, is just based off shock value, and I've read and watched quite a bit, so it's kind of like...
And, I mean, it did have some good songs on it, but some of it was just... It was embarrassing, and it had skits.
We don't like skits in this house because skits are what you skip.
No, we don't like skits in this planet. Let's not give them any.
Yeah, I mean, when have you put on an album and you're like, ooh, it's the skit that I love?
Yeah.
I don't think anyone said that.
No.
And then
nobody has ever said that.
And then the best album overall.
I think we already know what that is.
Minutes to Midnight, Linkin Park. It got a 10, our first 10, so...
Yeah, it's kind of hard not to say that. And that was surprising to me.
Yeah.
I really did not know that.
Do you want to know what's even more surprising? Off camera, Amy had 2 question marks where she said, I don't remember it. And Linkin Park was one of them. She just forgot that one. I don't know how, but...
Ding, I just earned a badge. Disappointment level 100.
Oh, but as we talked about in past reviews, she doesn't really care as much about the lyrics, and that's your opinion. I mean, that's not really bad or anything. So if you can't exactly relate to them, or you don't really care to relate to them, lyrics make a song sound annoying if they're really deep or heavy or whatever.
Yeah, some people don't need to climb in a well of despair and hide out there with a wet, soaking blanket, just clutching to it for their sanity and,
Painting a very vivid picture there, aren't you?
Well, yeah. Unfortunately, you and I know all about pain and darkness. If it wasn't for this music, I don't know how we would have fought this. And for other people, it's like, I just want to dance.
And she falls a little bit more into that category. There's nothing
just
wrong
a bit.
with it.
Yes, just a bit. Considering she's always suggesting Madonna.
She really does. She lists them out. It's funny. Not in a bad way, though.
And she's not on the podcast.
And overall, how would you rate this month?
You know what? I think what we started out to do here, listening to an album a day, and then we morphed it into starting with random letters, with random years, I mean. Mm-hmm. I think it has been so awesome because we've gotten to experience so much music that we never would have ever found an excuse to listen to. I don't think I would have ever suggested Dean Martin to you. And now you know who Dean Martin is. You know who some of these iconic Marvin Gaye, Etta James, Stevie Wonder. But then at the same time, we learned about new bands together like Darius Rucker. And I'm tickled pink that like one of my favorite bands, Snow Patrol. And I know they're not the deepest of deep, but you like them. And we never would have found that if we hadn't done this. And doing it by the year, we're coming up on the end of it, and now we have listened to one album from every year from 1957 to 2021. And you know what? Music is a big part of my life, and I think that's a big freaking accomplishment. And this is for you for coming up with the idea.
I'm clapping for myself. Make sure to come back next month to see the rest of the years. There's only 3 or 4 left, so what we're going to do for the rest of May is just do choice albums. And then we'll start back up on another challenge next month because we don't want it to be a weird number of things, basically.
Yeah. By the end of the year, we're going to go back through the years again, and this time...
We're going to pick a different genre.
Yes.
Than the year that we had done.
Which is going to be really interesting for, like, 1962. We're not going to be able to just go, like, hey, let's listen to something that's sort of rock.
And yeah, because that's the thing that's strange is we've done a lot of rock, because that's a very big genre, obviously.
Yeah, it's more on with what we listen to.
For most of them, we're going to have to do something that is completely out of our comfort zone. And it's going to be really weird for certain years, especially the more, like, older years where there was really only one genre out big at the time.
Yeah. So stay tuned, and, I hope you learned, you picked up a new band.
Yeah. Or learned something. There's been a lot of fun facts in this one.
Yeah, you probably learned some things about me that you're going to have to scrub out of your brain. See you next time.
Likes.
Subscribes.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.